Hey, record living friends, it's Brian from tokyorecordstyle. Greetings from Saturday morning. The weekend is here. I have a big one planned. I am going to be doing some photography. I'm going to be doing some gallery hopping. I'm going to try to make a video for you. I am going to do some family stuff, and I have a little window every Saturday morning right about now when half of my family has left the house and half of them are still upstairs asleep. So I have a chance to put something together, and I thought I would take this morning to make you another edition of Whack-A-Mole. Okay, if you don't know what Whack-A-Mole is, of course it's the arcade game where the moles pop up and you whack them down with the mallet. But in Vinyl Community World, it's where we grab records at random from our collection and we talk about them for a couple minutes each. It was put forth, I think, by our friend Norman Maslov, aka Mazzy. I think Mazzy claims that he didn't actually come up with the idea, but at any rate, I'm going to take another stab at it. I think this is the third or fourth time I've done it, so indulge me in another episode of Whack-A-Mole, and without further ado, I'm going to pull records from here, here, and here. And because I have a lot of precariously balancing accoutrements all over my shelves, I am going to close my eyes, I promise, Scout's honor, and I'm going to pull them out without looking at them, but I'm going to bend the rules and not just reach back so I don't bring my whole record collection down on top of me. So let me grab 5 records. Here we go. Eyes closed. 1, 2, 3. Oh, be careful. How about we go here? 3. Is that gonna knock anything over? 3. And let's go over here. 4. And 5. Okay. Oh, that's a magazine. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, interesting. Okay, let's start with the Black Keys. This is the Black Keys Attack and Release. Now, I saw the Black Keys back in maybe the early 2000s, and I saw them on the Big Come Up tour, their first album, and then the next record was, I think, The Rubber Factory, and then Thick Freakalicious, or whatever that third one was, and I think this is like the 4th one, and this one is produced by Danger Mouse, and it's a very great record. This was, you know, sort of evolved from the 2-piece into the bigger band touring act, on stage at least. The songs were more lush, and they were on MTV, and they were getting a lot of acclaim. When I saw them, they were at a little tiny theater, and they were just, you know, a screaming guitar player, Dan Auerbach, and Patrick Carney on the drums. And I absolutely love the 2-piece. All of their records are, some of them are like, they feel really well thought out, and some of them are a little bit like, feel a little haphazard. This one feels a little bit haphazard. The album cover is kind of like this watercolor over photographs, which is quite cool. And it's got these giant pictures of them before they cleaned up and unschlubbed a little bit. All You Ever Wanted, I got mine. Oh, these are like, so I heard the story about the Black Keys. They were originally recorded by Fat Possum Records, and I think the guy who was at the head of Fat Possum Records, I think Fat Possum's still around, he used like his college loan money to go record a bunch of like Mississippi Delta blues artists. I think it was a thing that, you know, people did in the early 60s, and he went back and did it in the 90s or in the early 2000s. And I think at some point they outgrew the Fat Possum label and they went over to None Such Records. And this may be one of their first releases on that record. It's from 2008. And what would be the standout track on here? Strange Times. I got mine. I think that might be a standard or an old, or that might be a cover. Strange Times. So good. This one, I think there was a video that came out with this one where it's a fantastic tune. Strange Times, Lies. I really love this record. And of course, like I said, produced by Danger Mouse. I love the Black Keys discography. I think this one might actually be kind of hard to come by. I'm not quite sure, but really cool record. I have nearly their entire discography. I think I actually have their entire discography. This one fits somewhere in the middle, I would say. 180 gram wax. Double gatefold LP on with a record in only one side, peculiarly. Okay, so there's one down. Next record. What should we do? Let's go this one. This is a series that one of my favorite bands, Fish, recently put out. It's called part of the LP series, the Live Fish. Now this is recorded live from 2000. This is a live recording and it has like one song on one side and one song on the other side. It's not a LP or an EP. It might not even be like, it might be like one song or two songs. Yeah, this is actually Ruby Waves side 1 and Ruby Waves side 2. I think this was a famous, they played like this one tune, Ruby Waves, for like 40 minutes at Alpine Valley in East Troy, Wisconsin, a famous place where the Dead used to play and where Fish has been playing for the last gajillion years. And they had this record, insane, Ruby Waves Jam, and they put it out on wax. And there's Jonathan Fishman, who is the namesake for the band Fish. He's the backbone of the band, the hardest working member of the band. He's the drummer who wears this sort of silly donut dress. He calls it, you know, his like superhero costume. He wore it once at one of their earliest shows. He found like this dress in a dumpster, I think, and like wore it on stage. And then he came out the next night and was wearing regular clothes, and everybody said, "Where's your costume?" And he said, I just wore it for one night. And they said, no, you got to wear it tonight. You got to wear it every night. And so he kind of adopted it as, you know, part of the shtick of the band. And it's made for kind of a great story. He talks about how when it's time to go on stage and it's time to be John Fishman, the drummer of Fish, it's time to suit up. And he's actually had a bunch of them made in the years since. And they come in a variety of colors. This is the sort of standard issue, dark gray and red version. Why am I talking about John Fishman's frock? But anyway, he's here on the cover of LP. This is one of, I think the 5th one is coming out very soon. There's 4 editions, and this was the first one that came out. I think it might be on kind of nice. Yeah, this one's, Fish has got their own label, Jemp it's called. This one is a nice, maybe, yeah, kind of beautiful little pink, red, purpley wax. Yeah, these are kind of a cool series. This was sort of like a pandemic idea, and I salute Fish for doing this. They put out these kind of like behind the scenes records amongst their Canon discs, and I always like to pick them up, and I find them quite fun. This is also a photograph by a photographer named Renee Humer. I hope I'm saying that right. Humer, H-U-E-M-R. He, I want to say, is Dutch, and he's been shooting with the band for a really long time, and he manages to capture some of those amazing lighting installations that Fish is famous for, that are created by their sort of 5th member, CK5, Chris Kuroda. This is mastered by Chris Bellman, Ed Bernie Grunman mastering. 2019 was probably the show, that was the year of the show, and then it came out in 2021. Yeah, interesting Fish record. You can check out a B-side, if you will. Okay, next record. Let's go White Light, White Heat. I pulled this out from the Velvets. Now, I've had this record for a long time, and it probably needs a good spin. I bought this in 2003 for $14.99. That was probably an expensive record at the time. And I think White Light, White Heat is it's their 2nd or 3rd record. I want to say they're 2nd, but this is, of course, the original lineup with John Cale and Sterling Morrison, of course, Lou Reed and Mo Tucker, and it's got all those classic Velvet tunes that you love on it. I think it's a perfect place to go after you've had, you know, the Velvet Underground and Nico, and a good place to go before you get to the Velvet's Loaded, their 4th and final album. And it's better than, I think, Max's Kansas City or any of those live records. I have a handful of them. The Velvets haven't really been recorded that great. They all sort of sound, you know, very in a club, and you can hear beer glasses and chatter, and it's real distorted, but they're cool. I recommend the John Peel sessions. This is kind of cool, or the Quine tapes, that's what it is. This is a cool like bootleg series. It's The Family Dog, San Francisco in 1969, The Matrix in San Francisco in 69, and St. Louis in 69. These 2 shows in San Francisco. I wonder if Mo Tucker was on that recent Velvet Underground video that came out during the pandemic, where she was like, we hated San Francisco and we hated those hippies, and she's very New Yorker. This might have been those shows. Really, you know, it's sounds like the rest of the live Velvet's canon, which is pretty lo-fi. But this one does manage to capture the visceral, guttural growl of the Velvets on a lot of the tracks. I think, you know, you've got White Light, White Heat. You've got Here She Comes Now. Oh, what a great song. Most of the B-side is taken up by Sister Ray, which I think is a live version, and it goes on for quite a while. This says it was remastered in '84. My version's kind of an older one. Oh, and it's got this cool photo. God, that's one of my favorite Velvet photos with those cool shades on, right? Look at Sterling Morrison with these cool shades, and Lou and John and sweet little Mo Tucker. I'm thinking of you. These guys are so cool. And this was written by Kurt Loder. I remember this is the famous journalist, rock journalist Kurt Loder, who wrote a really wonderful long form piece from this re-release in '84, I guess. I assume this came out in like, I don't know, '69. When did White Light, White Heat come out? Late 60s, 66. Okay. Well, this photo is taken from 66. Hard to say. You guys will know better than I do. I love the Velvets. I came to the Velvets by way of The Doors. I saw the Doors movie by Oliver Stone, and that was a big deal for me, a big rites of passage, and the heroine was on there, and I was like, wow, the Doors song, that song, dun, 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 that really drony song, where do I get that? I went and bought the Doors Greatest Hits, I bought the Doors soundtrack for the movie. I couldn't find this song anywhere. I was 13, 14 years old. Eventually got led to Nico and the Velvet Underground, and they became one of, if not my favorite band. I love them so much I should be able to talk about this record with a little bit more depth. But White Light, White Heat, great opening track, great closing track. Next record. This one's fun. This is a record from Brazil. This is a little bit tricky to read, but it's Caetano Veloso. This is the famous rock god of Brazil, a sort of Bob Dylan, larger-than-life character of Brazilian MBP, MPB, I forget these acronyms, but he was, you know, a very influential pioneer from the early rock and roll psychedelic days of Brazilian rock and roll, and of course he's still with us and he's still playing, and he's just a legendary musician. He's a national treasure of Brazil. He's been playing, he's probably played with everybody. His collaborations with some of Brazil's most famous artists are numerous and beloved, and this is, I think, maybe one of his very first records. Now, I found this in a record shop in Denver back in the late 90s or early 2000s. And the reason that I came to him is because I believe who plays backup on this band is Os Mutantes, the Mutants, Os Mutantes. I read about Os Mutantes in a magazine that had a feature by David Byrne, who was talking about music from around the world, and he talked about the Os Mutantes as being the sort of Brazilian Beatles. So I went and looked around for Os Mutantes, and I found some records of theirs, and I love their albums a lot. I love Rita Lee. I got her solo records, and then I found out that they were sort of like the band. They were to Caetano Veloso what the band was to Bob Dylan, essentially. He went on tour with Os Mutantes, I think. This record is killer. I love to spin this at parties. It gets everybody dancing. It's one of these records that everybody says, hey, what's that playing? And if you know your Brazilian music, you know this record. Now, it's a little bit weird to have found this in Denver like a long, long time ago. You know, before Discogs came, it would have been hard to know exactly what this record was. I bought it at Twist and Shout Records for $21.99. That was an expensive record, and I really, really wanted to own it. And it says here that it's on the Philips label, and it said there's a little sticker here that says made in the UK. And this record has since been re-released. There's no insert in it, and you can tell there's this little dot matrix that you can just make out, and you can tell by the weight of the paper on the jacket that it's a bootleg. Doesn't look like a bootleg, but I'm 90% sure it's a bootleg. And since Discogs has come out, I've checked, and there are bootleg versions of this. I can see this one poking out as well. This is, I think, the first Osmutanchis record, and I can see that I bought it also, I think, on the same day for the same price, and it also says, like, made in UK, and both of these records are listed in Discogs as bootlegs. So I assume this one is a bootleg, but I'm very happy to have it. I love seeing this really, really young picture of Caetano Veloso. I love to say Caetano Veloso. It's a fun thing to say, and this is a great record, and if you're into Brazilian Tropicalia and modern Brasilia something or other, I forget the acronym, then this is really something that you should check out. This is a great entry into that entire world, and I think you could easily, like I said, compare it to a, you know, early Dylan record that sort of blew the doors off of everybody's perceptions. And last but not least, I have a fun record that is kind of new. This is the wonderful side of the Mustangs. You probably don't know this record, but this record is so good. This is a band from the Bahamas, and I don't think I would have ever known about this band if it weren't for our old friends Fish, because Fish cover a song on this record by a different artist. The name of the artist who wrote the song is named Cyril Ferguson, and he's also known by an alter ego named Drybread. He's written this song called Yamar. He's also a Bahamian legend. He's sort of like larger than life character. You can find compilations of his music. I don't think he was very well recorded, and I don't know if there's any sort of canon records of his, but you can find singles and compilations with him on it. And this band, the Mustangs, they covered one of his songs called Yamar. I don't have the Cyril Ferguson version, but I do have this version, and this was very, very, very hard to come by, and I was looking for this for years, and it's a killer tune. If I can find it on YouTube, I'll link it in the show notes. But it's a great record. I was looking for this one song on this record, but I discovered all the other songs on this record, and it would be like the kind of music you would love to hear when you landed in the Bahamas and when you walked out of the airport and there was like a band playing right there, and it's this carefree vibe, and you can just kind of tell by the smiles on these guys' faces that, you know, this is a band that you want to see on your holiday in the Bahamas. And I think they, you know, I think they're rather a big deal, and I think this is their one and only record on GBI. But it's got it's got some great songs. It's got Ding-a-Ling, I think that's Chuck Berry. It's got Some Kind of Wonderful by Carole King. It's got Spanish Eyes, and it's got this song I keep talking about, Yamar. I don't know what Yamar is. Yamar, 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 you know, good pa. It's really, it might be like Bahamian vernacular. I'm not exactly sure what Yamar is. It might be your mom, your mother, I'm not sure. And then it also has Yellowbird, I think that's a standard, and then it has Sweet Caroline, dun dun dun, and really great. I don't really know what else to tell you about this record. Freeport, Bahamas, Southeastern Records, Opelika, Florida. So this is pretty far off the beaten path. I'm very happy to get to share this record with you guys. The wonderful side of Mustangs. Give this record a spin. And if you can find one, pick one up. I've seen them on Discogs. There's one, I think, maybe still in Germany, and there's a couple others in the world. And sometimes they're expensive, and sometimes they're not. I guess my Fish brethren have probably snatched up what little stock there is out in the world of these. Okay, so little Fish, little Velvets, little Caetano, little Mustangs. I think that's probably a pretty good cross-section of my record collection. I hope you enjoyed that. That was another edition of Whack-A-Mole, a tribute to Norman Maslov, aka Mazzy's series, where he pulls out from his enormous collection always interesting facts. And it's hard. It's not exactly an easy task to do. It's a little bit of a challenge, and I like to challenge myself to do this. And it's a good excuse actually to go put on these records. I haven't heard White Light, White Heat in ages, and I'm gonna go spin it actually and pull it back from from the back of my memory banks a little bit closer to the front. It deserves a good spin. And it's nice to revisit these stories of when I went to Denver and bought those records with my friend Freddie, how I tracked down that Mustangs record, went looking for it for a year. And yeah, the old Bart's CD seller from Boulder, Colorado, where I bought my White Light, White Heat on the nice price, one of those special low price labels. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have a great weekend or week if you're watching this at a different time. And if you liked, please hit the subscribe and share and comment and tell me what any of these records, if they jumped out at you, what you know or what you love about them. And congratulate me on just hitting 1,000 subs. I'm really stoked about that. I just got 1,000 subs on the channel. That's an amazing little milestone. Who would have thought? I mean, I had 3 subs in the very beginning. I said, oh my God, I have 3 subscribers. This is so amazing. And now I've got 1,000, and I'm just having an absolute blast sharing music with you and connecting with different people across the vinyl community. I think it's a really interesting place where we can come together and share music. And I love watching your videos, and thank you for watching mine. I really appreciate you guys sharing with me your musical journeys and letting me share mine with you. I also, to commemorate 1,000 subs, I launched some swag, some merch, so you can go check out the shop. The shop is not really linking up quite yet. They told me it takes 72 hours. It has been, but click through and you'll be able to get to some cool designs, some Tokyo record style designs. I hope you like them. Hope you'll score something for yourself, represent some Tokyo record style in your neck of the woods. Okay, I got stuff to do this weekend. I'm gonna go do it. Hopefully I'll have another video for you before the weekend's over, or maybe in the beginning of next week sometime. So until then, take care. Have a great day, night, or afternoon, or morning, wherever you are in the world. And until next time, I will see you at the record store. Bye.